Shalom Israel. Welcome again to Watchmen of the Faith Ministries. My name is Kasada Ba, and today's title show is going to be called What is Torah? And what I want to do is explain in detail that the nation of Israel was saved by grace through faith. All right? Again, the nation of Israel was saved by grace through faith. All right? And before I get started, I also want to bring special attention to two brothers that I see that's doing a very good job in bringing out the scriptures. Is the brother Lamont Yahoo and the brother named Sahajis from Search the Scriptures. Again, these two brothers are doing a very good job with the scriptures, and I just like to give credence when credence is due, and these two brothers are doing a very good job in bringing out the scriptures. All right, again, the title of this show is going to be called What is Torah? And I'm going to be reading from the book of Shemot, the 3rd chapter, and I'm going to be reading verses 20 to 21. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt, or Mizmarim, with all my wonders, which I would do in the midst thereof, and after that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall come to pass that when you go out, you should not go empty. Now, the first thing what I did now, I wanted to break down some of these words here so I can get a better understanding of what's going on here. Because again, the title of this show is called What is Torah? And I want to explain that the nation of Israel, okay, was saved by grace through mercy. Now, in verse 21 in the book of Shemot 3:21, it says, and I will give this people favor. The word favor in Hebrew is the word hanan. Okay, and that's very important for us to understand. And what I also wanted to do now is find out what is the definition of the word grace in reference to verse 21. So what I did now is that I went to the Webster Dictionary and I looked up the word grace. This is just any simple Webster Dictionary, so we can get more clarity on what's going on in the book of Shemot, the 3rd chapter, 20 to 21. Grace, unmerited favor of goodwill. So we see this is what the Messiah was showing to the nation of Israel when we were in Egypt. The Messiah was showing unmerited favor of goodwill, clemency. And the word clemency is mercy. Hence, any kindness, favor, or service freely rendered. All right, and that's going to be very important. This mercy, this grace was freely rendered to the nation of Israel. The unmerited love and favor of the Most High, free gift, the divine influence acting within the heart of regenerate, sanctified, and to keep it a state of reconciling to the Father through the Messiah. Now, that definition was very, very important, okay, because we have to understand Hebrew terminology. And again, the more Hebrew we know, the better off we will be, because it gives us a better understanding in understanding our Torah. All right. So again, I just want to read verse 21 again. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And the word favor is the Hebrew word hanan, which means grace. So grace isn't a new concept, all right? So when we start to read the New Testament, a lot of Christians say, well, listen, you know what? Grace didn't come until the Messiah came. We understand that grace, okay, abounded more when the Messiah came, because everything is foreshadowing the coming of the Messiah. But grace was always there from the very beginning. And the first person to show grace was the Messiah to the nation of Israel. Okay, so with that understood, we're going to now go to the book of Shemot, the 12th chapter, the 7th verse. In the book of Shemot is the book of Exodus. So the book of Shemot, the 12th chapter, I'm going to read the 7th verse. And they, which is the nation of Israel, should take the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house wherein they should eat it. So we're talking about the Passover here now. So after the nation of Israel was saved by grace, because the nation of Israel was called out of Egypt, and the word Egypt means bondage. Now, collectively, the nation of Israel was saved by grace because it wasn't of works. It wasn't of works that the nation of Israel collectively was doing in Egypt. It was by grace that the Messiah delivered the nation of Israel out of this Egyptian captivity. And we have to make sure that we understand that, because a lot of people believe, okay, by erroneous teachings of the scripture, that they deserved, okay, to be, okay, redeemed out of the house of bondage. But this gift, this clemency, this mercy was shown to the nation of Israel by the Messiah by grace. And again, the word grace in Hebrew is Hanan, spelled Hanan. So again, that's Hanan. All right, so again, what I'm going to do is read the book of Shemot, the 12th chapter, and I'm going to read the 7th verse, because I just want to make sure that this thing is brought out in this clarity, because again, the nation of Israel was saved by grace through faith. So now once the Messiah delivered the nation of Israel, okay, out of Egypt, the next step for Israel to do is now to have faith in the Messiah. And faith comes about through obedience. So after the nation of Israel was delivered out of Egypt, there was a commandment, okay? The word was given that the nation of Israel has to have faith. And this is the faith that Israel has to have. This is during the time of Passover, okay? And they should take, of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house wherein they should eat it. So this was a commandment that was given to the nation of Israel. So they had to be obedient to the faith, to the understanding of the Messiah. Okay, because again, it wasn't by works that we, the nation of Israel, was delivered out of Egypt. This thing is about obedience after mercy was shown to the nation of Israel. Now what I want to do is go to the book of Ephesians, because a lot of us say that, a lot of people say that Hebrew Israelites don't like going to the New Testament because the New Testament is saying something different. But we can also go through the New Testament, because the New Testament, okay, is edifying the old, and the old is edifying the new. Because what's happening now is that the Old Testament is foreshadowing the coming of the Messiah. So there's nothing that's said in the New Testament that can't be edified in the Old Testament. Each book is complementing one another. All right, so we're going to go to the book of Ephesians 2 and 8, because this is all one letter. The Messiah is not changing. This is one testimony. All right, the book of Ephesians, we're going to go 2 to 8. It says, "For by grace are you saved." And again, where can we find this grace at? This grace can be found in the book of Shemot, okay, which is the book of Exodus, in the 12th chapter, the 3rd verse, and also in the book of Shemot, which is the book of Exodus, in the 12th chapter, the 7th verse. So when we see the word grace here, all right, in the New Testament, this is not a new principle. This principle started in what they call the Old Testament. All right. So again, for by grace are you saved. So it's mercy through faith. Through faith in what? Through the faith and obedience of the Messiah. So for by grace are you saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is a gift, a free will gift of the Messiah, okay, to grant clemency to the nation of Israel. Because this thing is about coming back into covenant relationship with the Messiah. Because again, we have to understand how the story is being told. After the nation of Israel was delivered out of Egypt, okay, we were then going to Mount Sinai, where we then came into covenant relationship with the Messiah. But first things first, the Messiah showed the nation of Israel mercy, love, clemency. All right, so it's very important that we understand that. So it was never about our works. And I'm going to read verse 2 and 8 again in the book of Ephesians. So I just want to make sure that there's clarity on this thing here. It says, "For by grace are you saved." are we saved? Through faith, and the faith is, okay, again, the believing and the obedience of the Messiah, and that means following Torah. And not of ourselves. So there was nothing that we can do, all right? Not of ourselves, because I can't say, listen, you know what? I participate, okay, in every single Sabbath, and I automatically got a free pass to go to the kingdom. It's not like that. This is about the mercy that the Messiah bestowed again upon the nation of Israel. Because remember, this is what the Pharisees was doing. The Pharisees had gotten so mechanical, okay, and forgot the spiritual aspects of the law. All right, again, for by grace are you saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of the Messiah. Okay, that has to be understood. Now, let's go to Romans, the 3rd chapter. Okay, or like the way that I like to do it is called to the strangers of Rome. I know the title says to the Romans, but when it says to the Romans, it automatically clicks in a lot of people's head that he's talking to the Romans. But Paul is talking to the strangers in Rome. So we're going to be going now to the book called The Strangers in Rome. And the reason why I'm calling it the Strangers in Rome is because of Acts, the 2nd chapter, the 10th verse. It says, and I'm just going to read where the latter end of verse 10, it says, and strangers of Rome. And we know that Paul was a minister to the strangers in Rome. And who were the strangers in Rome? The strangers in Rome, which is Asia Minor, were Israelites. Okay, they were scattered amongst the 4 corners of the earth, but Israelites was also scattered in Asia Minor. So when I say that I'm going to the book of Romans, I'm going to the book called The Strangers in Rome. All right, I just want to make sure that I brought that out in its clarity. I don't want anybody to believe that I'm adding anything to the scripture. Now again, if you go into the book of Romans, the 3rd chapter, and I'm going to read verse, what do we have here? Verse 28. Therefore we conclude, okay, that a man is justified by faith. Again, faith in who? Faith in the Messiah. That a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. So no man can be justified by the deeds of the law. We have to understand that as Hebrew Israelites, okay? Just because I wear a garment, okay, I have the fringes on and things like that, that does not give me an automatic pass that I'm going to the kingdom. This is about grace. And I'm going to read it again. It is, therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith. Faith in what? Faith in his obedience to the Messiah, without the deeds of the law. Then I'm going to read verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? Because, see, one thing has to mirror the next. Because Christians now would take things out of context and they would read verse 28 and say, see, listen, you know what? Only thing we have to do is just believe in the Messiah and everything is okay. But that's not the complete understanding of the scripture. In order to understand the scripture, you have to read it from beginning to end. That's just like me sending you a letter. If I sent you a 5-page letter, you only read the 3rd page, how can you give me a full explanation of the letter when you only read the 3rd page out of 5 pages? Okay? You only read 1 page out of 5 pages, and you believe that you can now give me a thorough explanation of the letter without reading the whole letter. And that's what a whole lot of Christians do. They would take verse 28 out of context and they would say, see, listen, you know what? The law is dead. The law is done away with. Only thing that we have to do, all right, is just have faith in the Messiah. And this is not what this letter is saying here. With that, I'm going to say shalom.